Hello, folks. This thing really records quick. I'm used to waiting for a delay, and this is like boom. I got a pretty good computer here. Making another one already. I realize I make a lot of these videos because I need to really see a therapist, and I don't know. I just don't want to waste time going to one. I mean, it's not really a waste of time. I'm sure it would be useful for me. Since I always have things I need to get off my chest, and normally I would go see one if I had the time, but I've got so much work to do. I'm in this part of the reason why I'm making this video. By the way, this is one of the new rooms, new house here. This is kind of a nice one. It's pretty big. It doesn't even look as big on the video as it actually is. But anyway, um, look at this. God, look at I'm losing my hair. I mean, I can't believe this crap. I'm gonna have to shave this off pretty soon. I mean, it looks god awful. You know, this is what happens when you turn. I'm about to turn 40 in May. Another reason for depression. I had my hair up until just about now. Now I'm getting to 40. It's almost gone. That's a major bummer. Luckily, I look pretty good with a shaved head, so I guess at least I have that look to fall back on. But I don't know. It's a lot of maintenance doing it every day, and I just know it's going to get worse from here on out. But that sort of all ties into what this video is really about, just that you know I know I said in my last video that you should have to be appreciative of your life, and I think you do. I'm not changing my mind on that at all. Um, but I guess what's hard is that I'm in this web development class now, and I started down the path towards computers when I was a lot younger. I tried to get into being when I first got out of high school. I took a class. I was taking classes in being a network administrator, which was something I didn't really want to do. I was sort of pushed into by my mother, who just thought she thought I liked computers, even though mostly I just liked playing games on computers. I didn't actually like the ins and outs of working with computers. People who like the ins and outs of working with computers, they've become probably pretty wealthy at this point, designing all types of things. If you were a big fan of the inner workings of computers, how they connect with each other, and software and mostly software stuff, then you could have made quite a bundle before the tech boom, obviously. And the tech boom's gone on for quite a while, so there was plenty of opportunities to make money. So I was getting into it back in late '90s, where I could have made a ton of money if I'd really stuck with it. But I started off in network administration, which was not a good path to start with. I didn't know anything about what was lucrative back then. Um, and network administration was probably one of the most boring jobs in the computer industry. You pretty much just sort of a babysitter for sorry to any of you network administrators out there, but there's not a lot of creativity in network administration, and you just sort of babysit a network and make sure that the security is all right and that everything works, and that if they have any problems, you'll be the guy they call to fix it, and you'll be the support guy. And it doesn't pay that great. And as far as computer jobs go, there's a lot more lucrative jobs. Pretty much any job where you work in a creative capacity, you're going to get paid more, especially on the software side. There's a lot of if you're a coder. I don't know. I mean, I don't even really know that much about it. This is just what I gather. Um, you know, any kind of a coder is going to get paid more than somebody who just does network administration. So I didn't realize that. I did network administration for a little while. And I realized I did some job searches back in the He was maybe about 99, 2000, and saw that everybody wanted people who knew how to code. So I was like, all right, I'm not learning how to code in this field, or and learning that the network administrators don't make as much money as some of the other guys in the computer field, and they have to work kind of 9 to 5 hours, boring kind of shit. So I was like, yeah, I guess I better go where the money is. So I decided to start a computer science degree, community college. I was going to transfer. So I started off in that, and around that time, if I'd stuck with it, I could have been a wealthy man today. My life would have gone a lot differently. But I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. I'm just not a code geek, code nerd, whatever. I envy those people because they make cha-ching. I mean, they may not be the most. They may be considered nerds, which these days is not even so much of a put down. Really, nerds are kind of have taken over the world, as I've said in previous videos. Um, So yeah, I started down that path, and I did all right. I got an A in my C class, and I took C. Um, I did it fairly well in the beginning computer science classes. I wouldn't say I was fantastic, but I did all right. Um, I did get an A in my C class, which I was very proud of. I had a very good teacher, and that helped. And then, so I was only maybe in, I think I took about maybe, I don't know, I was only in computer science for about maybe a semester and a half or something like that. And it was at that point that my cousin, who's a musician, convinced me, I'm not a musician, but he played music. Didn't really have much of a career at that point in his life. And he convinced me, you should, become a musician with me, and we'll, play in a band, and we'll try to see where we can get with that. And if we can't get anywhere, you can always fall back on being a music teacher, which I like the idea of. I've always loved music, that's always been one of my passions. I've always been a big fan of music. Like most people, like a lot of people. I mean, actually, most people aren't really big fans of music. They might think they are. Most people just like music generally, but to be a big fan of music, you kind of have to dedicate to it a little bit. And most people don't really dedicate to it, and most people don't um, really ever look into what music is all about, and they don't study, the ins and outs of it. Um, you know, I wish I'd started sooner. I wish I'd started studying music as a child, because then I could have really been a great musician. But I started studying the piano at 20. I was very naive. Some reason I believed my cousin. I always liked music, and I never made any serious attempt to learn an instrument. So, at 20 years old, I started trying to learn an instrument, and either having some level of success in a band, or becoming a music teacher, which is pretty stupid looking back. It didn't make a lot of sense for me to start that late in a field where that's so competitive, and where the chances of me really succeeding were much slimmer than I thought. But at the time, I thought, I'm a fairly intelligent person. I just figured I'd be able to figure it out. I knew I had a strong love of music. I'm fairly intelligent. I'm not a genius. I thought, oh, I'll just figure this out. Whatever it takes, I'll just figure it out. It won't be that hard. I think my flaw was that I thought that learning things was about how fast you could figure it out. And I think it was for most of my life I didn't give enough thought to how hard you have to work. That's something that's a good lesson to learn from this video. If anyone who thinks that they're kind of have special aptitude and that they can pick something up because they're intelligent, um, you know, very rarely is that the case just based on intelligence. I mean, if there are people who are, musical prodigies, and I'm sure there's people who, if you had somebody like, And I'm sure if Elton John didn't, or Oscar Peterson in jazz or something like that, if these guys didn't come to the piano till later in life, I'm sure they still would have figured it out fairly quickly because they may have just had some natural aptitude for it. But just because you like something doesn't mean you'll have a natural aptitude for it. And I think that's another important point. Um, I liked using the computer when I was a kid because it meant I could play games. I was really into playing video games and playing games on the computer. And that's why my mother assumed that I would enjoy working with the technical aspects of computers. And there's a very big difference between enjoying something and enjoying what makes that thing work. I think there was some comic who made a pretty good joke about this, and he'd said like um, they said so you do stand up comedy well. Can you write when you write comedy or whatever, or can you write a show? And he was like, that's kind of a ridiculous question. God, I don't even remember the bit. It was a funny bit. Yeah, that doesn't help you at all. But anyway, if you like watching movies, for example, it doesn't mean you enjoy running a projector. I mean that kind of thing. It's like it's kind of you know, I think people just they use that kind of silly logic to try to convince you that doing work is enjoyable when it's not. Obviously, playing video games is a lot more fun than developing a video game. Although, if that wasn't the case, then millions of people would be developing video games. Millions of people play video games because it's fun. Developing a video game, not so much fun. At least not for most people. So anyway, so yeah, so I thought because I loved music that I would have a natural aptitude for it, and it turns out I did not. I really struggled. I didn't have a great natural ear. All my ear training I had to do meticulously, practice meticulously to get to a point where I could, where I could feel like I could play by ear a little bit. It took me many years to learn how to play by ear. Some people have that naturally. I did not. I had to work on it. And in some ways, I was able to get myself to a place where maybe I wouldn't have been if I wasn't intelligent. But it was really more about putting in work than it was about being smart. And if you don't have some amount of natural talent, you can only get so far. And I only got so far. Not even so much. I'm not even sure if it was more because I didn't have the natural talent, or if it was more because I didn't put the time in. Because I didn't really put the work in that other people put into being a great musician. Also, But that was largely because, guess what? Playing music is not as enjoyable as listening to music, at least for me. For some people, it is. I mean, I enjoy playing music now more than I ever used to, but mostly with other people. Alone, not so much. I don't really get out my keyboard and jam alone. I used to do it occasionally. We had a real piano when I lived in California. I had an actual piano, and at that I would sit down and play, and it was somewhat enjoyable, but never as enjoyable as I wanted it to be because most of the time my experience with playing piano is I go to sit down and play. I realize I don't know that much, and the stuff that I do know is stuff that I don't have practiced up, and either I get stuck at a part and can't finish it, or I don't play it as well as I'd like, even if I can finish it. Um, or I just get frustrated, that I don't know more, that I've forgotten things, and that's because I don't practice often enough. It's like whenever the mood strikes me, I'd go to play, but but it's not something I'd want to do every day. And I think that's another thing is to be good at something you have to do it every day. And I've never enjoyed doing any one thing on a daily basis. I think I'm like most people. Like most people, it's hard to obsess over one thing to the point that you get to be very talented at it. And yeah, there's pretty much nothing that I do in my life that I've wanted to do on a daily basis to the point where I got to be, a talent, or not a talent, but I got to be proficient doing. So I guess that's most people. Maybe I have a short attention span. Um, I grew up playing video games, and I've read that playing video games your whole life can make you kind of can lessen your attention span. I don't think I ever had ADD. I know some people who have really low attention spans. Mine is not as long as it could be, but it's certainly it's long enough that I can listen to a 6 7 minute um, you know prog rock song and not get bored, or Fish song, or Pink Floyd song, whatever, Genesis song. I like those long songs. When it's music, my attention span is limitless. When it's video games, it used to be limitless with video games, not so much anymore. I used to like playing, Legend of Zelda, stuff like that. Um, but I don't play those games anymore because I don't really want to play video games. In fact, I sold all my video games because I thought, well, it's time to grow up and get a real job, and so I knew I was going to have time to play video games, and I don't. But anyway, so yeah, that kind of brings me to this point. Back to what the meaning of this video was. Um, for a long time, I tried to be a musician, and like I said, I wasn't naturally gifted, and I started too late, and I ran into a lot of walls. I ended up studying music in community college, and transferring, and trying to hack it in a music program at UC Santa Cruz, and that was a total disaster. By the time I got to Santa Cruz, I was not really skilled enough, as you could imagine. Only been playing for about, I think I managed to slow play my way through community college. And I did that as intentionally as I could, so that I would have more time to get ready to, as a musician, to be able to handle it in the music program. But it was still only amounted to about, I spent actually like a total of maybe, I might have been in community college for like 5 years in total. Yeah, it's pretty slow. Um, and I didn't start. I think it was about 2000. Yeah, it's funny. I may have been in community college for like 7 years. I managed to stay in community college for 7 years. That's pretty amazing. Um, partially because I'd started with one major and changed my major a couple of times. I was studying computer networking at first in community college, and then I was studying computer science in community college, and then I was studying music, and then getting my general education in community college. So it was just kind of like, it took me a while to get to transferring. But by the time I started studying music, it must have been about maybe 2000 or so. So I think I spent about 5 years from 2000 on studying music and getting my general education out of the way. Um, and I was able to get at least, three. I think I had like a 3.5, something like that GPA. So it wasn't like I wasn't trying, but the only way I was able to get that GPA was by doing. I was taking about maybe 11 units per semester. Not too challenging. Um, but I did that intentionally. One, because I wanted to get the good grades, and two, because I needed time to prepare myself for music school. So I transferred at about 25 years of age to UC Santa Cruz, and yeah, I was there for 1 quarter, and I actually got A's and B's that first quarter. I was very proud. It was very challenging, much more challenging environment. Part of the reason why I transferred to UC Santa Cruz is because I thought for some reason that it was still in the 1970s mode of giving you a pass fail for every class, and I thought, oh well, I could probably hack that. I thought it was a laid back environment, but it's not like that at all. Um, New UC Santa Cruz is much more stringent. In fact, it's, I think, even more demanding than a lot of you know um, non UC programs in music. Not as demanding as, say, a conservatory, which would probably kick your ass half to death. And I never could have gotten into conservatory because I wasn't anywhere near that good. But they let me into UC Santa Cruz just based on my transfer. and they let you choose your major, but you find out that you're not good enough pretty quickly. Found out that I was not good enough pretty quickly by doing an audition and failing. They wouldn't let me in the piano program. They put me in percussion. Hold on a second. I got to blow my nose. I don't want to do that. There we go. Just gotta. I have a handkerchief here, so I don't want to gross anyone out with that. Anyway, so yeah. So they wouldn't let me study piano there. They put me in percussion program by default, which is pretty silly. Anybody who doesn't play the instrument well enough to hack it in whatever their instrument of choice gets automatically thrown to wherever they had openings. And so I got thrown into the percussion program, and I'd had some percussion skill. I guess I'd rather have been in the drumming program, but the drumming program wouldn't have allowed me either. Percussion was sort of like the catch-all for anybody who couldn't hack it in their instrument. And I think it's just like a temporary staging place before they kick you out because anybody who just gets thrown into the percussion program who hasn't had a percussion background will quickly find that the school doesn't really want them to be there whatsoever. Because I was there for 1 quarter, and I still enjoyed the quarter. It was kind of fun being in college and learning. I actually didn't even mind learning the percussion. I figured, oh, well, someday I'll just take this knowledge and use it to play drums instead. If I can just hack it and get through this, then I'll have a good rhythmic basis, and I can keep learning piano on my own, and it'll help my rhythmic capabilities. When I become a teacher or whatever, with whatever band I'm playing with. And after 1 quarter, I did well in the classes, but I didn't do so well as a percussionist because I learned they had me learning snare drum pieces that were fairly not too difficult to learn. I could learn the snare drum pieces fine, but the problem was I was supposed to be learning snare drum pieces and vibraphone pieces at the same time. And it's kind of hard to learn. I mean, I knew very little about the snare drum. I had taken very little classes in that. I wasn't very good at reading rhythm, so that was always a struggle. The other classes they had me taking were very challenging because they were kind of multifaceted. You had to do, they had like all these piano, I mean, even people who didn't play the piano had to learn all these very complicated piano pieces, 4-part harmony, Bach chorales, and you had to learn how to sight sing. You had to learn how to you had to do a lot of ear training, which is what got me started in ear training was UC Santa Cruz, which I got to give them credit for that. That was a nice it pushed me in a good direction there. And you had to do music theory, and I mean they sort of put you in a trial by fire right off the bat. You had to take an elective, I took a gamelan class, which was just basically the only elective that seemed like it would be fairly easy. So yeah, it was an intense workload, and that's why I was proud to get all A's and B's my first quarter. I had to work hard for those A's and B's, but then but on top of that, you had to be preparing for an advisory audition, and the advisory audition would tell them whether or not you would they would sort of have some faculty gathered to kind of review your progress and decide whether or not you were ready to go on to the graduation audition. They figured that they would decide if in 2 years you would have the skills to pass the graduation audition. And as you might not, unsurprisingly, they listened to me and said, "Well, we don't think you're going to make it in 2 years." And for most people, when they take the advisory audition, they've already been in the program for 2 years, because they went to UC Santa Cruz as freshmen, and so they had 2 years to get to that advisory audition level. And I didn't have that, I didn't have 2 years to prepare as a percussion student because I'd been preparing as a music student in community college, as a piano student in community college. So pretty much I had, that 1 quarter to prepare for the advisory audition, and after a quarter, I wasn't up to snuff in percussion, which I hadn't really studied, except for, playing hand drums. So, they said I shouldn't be there, and that was sort of the end of the attempt to do something that I really wanted to do in life. And well, that wasn't the end of the attempt. That was the end of the serious attempt, I guess. After that, I sort of said to myself, well, all right, I guess I'll just work side jobs and learn music on the side. I was excited about the ear training thing, and see if I could have success, on my own without going through the proper channels. And I didn't have any success. I played, but I didn't play enough. I didn't have enough talent. Don't have a great singing voice. It's pretty mediocre. Um, and It took me quite a while to figure that out, that I did not have a career in music. I mean, it didn't take me that long. I think 4 years later, I was living in Santa Cruz about 4 years later. I'd been in the program for maybe the first. Oh, yeah, I transferred to San Jose State and tried to make it work there, and it didn't work there for a variety of reasons, mostly because I hated driving over the hill every day, and the traffic was god awful on a daily basis, and it wasn't long before I couldn't stand that. So I just worked in Santa Cruz for a while and burnt through the money I'd saved up working in customer service in San Francisco. And it was at that point, I think by the time I was 29, I'd run out of money and couldn't stay in Santa Cruz anymore because I couldn't find a job that paid well enough. It was at that point that I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do anything that I wanted to do for most of my life. And that's finally getting around. I know that was the longest tangent I've ever gone on, and probably lost a lot of you, but whatever. I'm making this halfway for me, halfway for you guys anyway. Um, yeah, the point is that, you know, if you fail at the thing that you think you want to do, then you got major problems. Because, I mean, I was 29. I knew by the time I was 29 that I had no future as a professional musician because there are no professional musicians past the age of 29 generally. It's pretty rare. It's like the rarest thing you could possibly imagine. Um, and Unless you're, a cruise ship guy, I mean, you're going to be struggling as a musician, as a career musician, if you make it past the age of 29. Music was kind of dead at that point anyway. The whole industry changed. It wasn't the old model of bands and things. DJs had become more popular at that point, and it felt like a lot of the integrity kind of died out of music between the mid '90s and points after. Music became more about image. It became more about you know what was cool than any kind of really artistic exploration. Um, Not to say that there aren't still people who try to be artistic, uh, but people have always tried to turn me on to modern bands. Say, well, if you listen to these guys, you listen to these guys. I mean, I think there actually is a lot of musical talent out there, but I think that the best players aren't necessarily becoming very popular. And I think that that people have to struggle more and more to be successful, even with talent these days. So it was definitely a dead end career to get into. And since I moved back in with my parents at around age 29, and from that point on, I've just kind of been coasting in this sort of attempt to avoid a real job since then. Um, I probably should have gone back to computers by the time I was 29, but I guess I was kind of in denial. You know, I, and that gets again back to the point of this whole thing. In the end, if you can't do something you want to do, you just sort of have to decide to spend most of your life doing something that society wants you to do, and that's the real bitch of it. You know, I should have started. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I mean, doing nothing definitely isn't any better than doing what society wants you to do. I can say that from personal experience. I tried to be, I wanted to be a driver because I figured, well, it's an easy job. You talk to people, it's social. Um, It was kind of a hypocritical thing for me to do because I consider myself a ecologically, concerned person, and driving is about the worst thing you could do. Um, but I'd always wanted to get involved driving, driving a hybrid or driving something that would reduce the amount of gasoline that was used. And I did start as a taxi driver um, in San Francisco, and that was about the time rideshare came around and made driving kind of a sort of made it, what's that word, unfeasible, I guess. Is that a word? Unfeasible, infeasible. It made it impossible as a career. I mean, it already was a pretty low paying job. It was, I guess maybe I don't know. I'd heard that you could make like 50 grand a year as a taxi driver if you knew how to play the game the right way. Especially if you've gotten the medallion. Originally I was going to try to get that medallion, and I must have been working for maybe 2 3 months before rideshare came in and destroyed any chance of making any kind of a decent living as a driver. And then I was a chauffeur driver for quite a few years, and that was sort of a lost period in my life. That was the time at which I probably should have dove back into computers because I was still fairly young. If I'd started at around 30 instead of trying to be a musician on the side. I tried to teach music lessons too, but I kind of realized that I wasn't really qualified to teach because I wasn't really didn't really have the skills necessary to really pass them on. I mean, I'm okay. I'm a decent piano player, I guess, at this point. But teaching is a whole nother ball game. You have to kind of learn how to teach, and I never really went to a pedagogical school. Um, so I kind of realized that I felt like a fraud teaching people when I felt like I didn't even know everything that there was to teach, or feel. And I also felt like I wasn't an effective teacher. Like my methodology wasn't very well developed, and I felt like I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So I started to feel guilty for charging people money. I did have maybe a few students for a little while, but I didn't really know how to make it work. Um, it was I enjoyed the teaching part of it as much as I could, but I couldn't really keep students. I think it was because my methodology was a little too haphazard. I was just kind of throwing too much stuff at them at one time. I couldn't really keep them interested. I couldn't get them to practice. Um, I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. So yeah, I quit trying to teach and went to be a driver for a long time, and that was just lost time. And now I'm 40. No, I'm almost 40. I'm 39 actually, but I will be 40 in a couple of months. Mid May, late May. and and yeah, I'm doing this web development program, and it's really difficult to keep focus on this. You know, like I said, I've never really loved the ins and outs of computers particularly. So I'm just kind of going back to this because I know it's a job that if I can do it, I'll get paid well, and that's my concern is getting paid well. But at the same time, I'm almost 40 and I'm just starting now, and I just feel like I'm so far behind everybody. I mean, not people. There's older people in my class, and there's probably people who are coming to it late, and it does sound. They make it sound as if there's such a need for web developers that they'll have patience with you if you're not the greatest at it, and you'll sort of they'll work with you to help you understand things. And so that's I guess that's somewhat encouraging if I can at least get to a certain basic level, I suppose, and get hired. And it'll only be only be up from there. But at the same time, it's just it's kind of a soulless job. It means nothing to me. I have a couple of websites I'd like to build. One especially, it's kind of a food review site. It's different from Yelp, and then it's a lot faster. Um, I find it's difficult to with getting picking a restaurant. It can be difficult with Yelp because you have to kind of get into the weeds about, you got to go look and read. I want to have a food review site that doesn't require any reading of actual reviews because that just takes too long. So I have an idea for how to do that, and I'd like to make that happen. But I'd be more interested in paying coders to make the website for me than having to do it myself. And I doubt that it's very lucrative because Yelp is hardly a huge moneymaker. It really has more to do with satisfying my own need for picking a restaurant quickly than it does with any actual profit potential. Um, and while it's nice, if I am getting the skills where I'll be able to make a website like the one I want to make, which is I guess somewhat entertaining. But when it really comes down to it, what I want to make is not particularly exciting. I mean, it'll be nice to have if I can make it, but it's not what I envisioned for my life. You know, I always envisioned doing something that I believed in. And I don't really believe in this. I mean, making a website so I can find the food I want faster. I mean, it's kind of nice for me. It'll be nice for some other people, but it's not making the world a better place, really. It's more of the same first world crap. Um, I had another idea for a basic website to teach kids, the notes on a piano, which is a good start. But again, there's software out there that does stuff that's way more advanced. Musician. I don't know if you've heard Musician. I highly recommend it. It's a well designed program. Um, that's a really great program. What I'm designing is very basic. They don't have something that's as basic as I want to make, which is why I want to make it. But again, no money. There's going to be no money there. Um, and you know, I would like to make something a lot more involved, um, which I won't tell you because it's something I'll probably never make. But it's another music teaching software that kind of gamifies the experience in a way that hasn't been done yet. But I know I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm going to school for web development. I wish I could be going to school for video game development. That's what I really like to be doing. But at my age, especially in Massachusetts, that's not easy. You know, and and I've heard it's a very competitive field, and you'd have to assemble a team of people. You'd have to get in a position where you had a team of people that would work with you on the game, and there's just a lot of challenges. Especially, if I was younger, I think I'd be down for it. I think if I'd been studying video games from a young age, that I could have made it happen. But at my age, it'd be a huge struggle to get that to happen. So I just kind of find myself in this position where I'm learning web development not because I really wanted to be a web developer, but just because it was the only boot camp I could find that wasn't 100 hours a week. It was 20 to 30 hours a week, which is more my speed, as you can remember from how long it took me to get through the undergrad and community college. Um, I'm just, I don't know if it's my fault or my parents' fault for not giving me enough of a work ethic, or it's both of our faults. I know everyone says you should always blame yourself first, and it probably is mostly my fault. But you know, I found this boot camp supposed to be 20, 30 hours a week. It's not 20, 30 hours a week. It's more than that. I don't know how anybody who has, I think it's meant for people who have part-time jobs, and I don't know how anyone with a part-time job can handle the workload. I mean, I've been trying my hardest and busting my ass as much as I can. Um, I've had some setbacks because of health reasons and because some difficulty with understanding the material. It's pretty challenging, and I don't like my course particularly because they kind of, even though it's a less intensive boot camp than some of these other ones that throw 100 hours a week at you. I still find myself overwhelmed. Um, you know, JavaScript is not as easy as I thought it would be. I thought JavaScript was going to be an easy language to learn. It seemed like, oh, it's a web language. How hard can it be? Figure what you can do with it isn't all that exciting compared to programming software. And yeah, it's confusing in other ways. I've come around to understanding. It's there's so many things that are happening in the internet that the average person has no awareness of. And there's kind of like being aware of the connectivity. I mean, there's so many aspects to being a web developer, and there's so many things that you can learn, and tools you can use, and ways in which to implement those tools. And it's just, you know, unsurprisingly, it's a lot. There's a lot to learn. And I think that's just how the world is these days. In order to get paid a decent amount of money, you have to know a lot. It used to be you could learn something basic and that would be enough. But now it's kind of like you're expected to be multifaceted. You look for a job and they say, well, we want you to know this language and this language and this language and this language and this. Or if it's not multiple languages, it's multiple libraries or multiple, meta languages or all these kinds of, and you have to. I mean, it's like you should know something about internet interact the connectivity with the computers, and you should know. I mean, there's just computers is tough because there's just always new things coming out that you need to know in order to be successful. They're constantly coming up with new frameworks and new languages, and the fads change. Every year, every few years, there's new things to learn. And a lot of nerds love this stuff. They love that there's new things to learn. They get excited to learn. Oh, well, I was excited to see that they had this new framework, and I tried it out, or I wasn't impressed at first, but then it got to be interesting. I hear these types of things from my teacher and other people, and it's just kind of like it just feels like throwing a bunch of stuff onto the pile. It's like here's a pile of things to learn. It's going to continually grow and grow and grow. For the rest of your life. And if you're excited about being a web developer or you're excited about coding, then that's an exciting thing. But I'm not excited about coding. I just want a freaking paycheck. That's it. I want enough money so that I can, continue to exist after my parents die. And unfortunately, what goes into that, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, is it just becomes tedium, and that's what it's going to be for me, tedium. Um, and it makes me wonder. Getting back to that point about enjoying your life, I always say, all these people who sort of brush with death always say, when I brushed with death, I realized, I shouldn't be living my life for other people. I should be living my life for myself. Um, and don't waste the moment of your life because when it's near the end, you're going to realize that um, you shouldn't be living your life for anyone but you, and you shouldn't miss the opportunity to do what you really want to do. And that's what I was acting on when I was trying to be a musician for all those years. Is the idea that I would try to do something that would make me feel like I've made my life worthwhile. But here's what they don't tell you. Um, most people are not going to be able to do something that makes them feel like their life is worthwhile. And if you do try to do something that makes your life worthwhile, there's consequences for it. If you're not, that is, if you're not good enough at it, or if you don't love to do it on a daily basis, there are consequences. I loved listening to music, but I never loved playing music. I probably should have been a DJ, um, a radio DJ. I mean, not like a I could have maybe been a DJ, but I don't think I would have done as well with that as I would have been like being a radio disc jockey or. But even that doesn't pay well. I just think in the end, I just don't have any real interests that pay well. That something I can't imagine doing something on a daily basis um, that someone would pay me for. Um, and there's nothing on a daily basis I want to do generally, let alone something someone's going to pay me for. So, I guess I'm just making this video to say this is a long way to come around to this, but it's you can't listen to people when they say these things about make your life. I mean, if you can find something that you really enjoy that you can turn into a career, absolutely, by all means, don't waste your life, go for it. But realize that if that's something like, music, acting, sports, anything that a lot of people want to do, anything that's a super competitive field, the chances of you being able to do it for the rest of your life are not so great. And if you're not one of the best at one of those competitive fields, you're going to find yourself like me, older and trying to make it work with something, and coming to the realization, like I have, that the large percentage of the rest of my life is going to be toiling away at something that doesn't mean a lot, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really give life meaning. It doesn't really propel you forward. You're not excited to wake up on a daily basis. At this point, I know that I don't want to die. I've had the near death experience. I've had what was in my mind a near death experience. Um, and I wonder sometimes if I want to keep going on because of survival instinct, or because I really am going to appreciate the time that I have left. Because most of the rest of my life is going to be a struggle. I'm going to have to do, if I am able to successfully, get a job as a web developer, which, I worry about because, like I say, I mean, I don't love it. And at this point, I'm just doing it for the paycheck, not doing it because I really enjoy the process. I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can, but, the more I learn, the more I see that there's a lot more to learn, as is the case in most situations. And it's daunting. It's daunting. It's hard for me to believe that I'm going to get to a point where people are going to want to pay me when I know I'm never going to be as good as the people who geek out on this stuff. I don't really bring any unique skill set that's going to make my web development better than anyone else's. At least not yet, and I don't expect to. Um, you know, And I can just imagine, being put in a world where it's just kind of like, it's deadlines, They're like, we need this feature by this day, and you'll work with your team to make some feature, and then right after that, maybe you'll barely make it, and you'll be lagging, and other people on your team will be like, you haven't finished that thing yet, and I'll be like, oh, I got caught up with this, and I really wanted to perfect that, and they're gonna be like, oh no, it's about quantity, not quality. That's what it's always about in the workplace. They always want you to get it done. They don't care about if it's perfect or not, and that always doesn't jive with my, perfectionism. So I have to force myself to put out subpar code just to get things done, and it's like that's gonna annoy me. And yeah, I know a lot of people think I'm probably just overthinking this and making up reasons for me to fail, but it's just kind of like, it's disappointing to me. It's disappointing to me that in the end, most of my life, I'm just in the end, I'm just going to be a cog in the wheel. I'll be a cog in a more complex wheel than just being a driver. To be a code person. Not everybody can do code, but there's a lot of people that do know how to do code. Most of them are going to do it better than I can. I know I'm capable of doing the job, but I'm not going to do it well. I'm never going to be a great coder. I'll just be a guy who can code, and there's so many jobs that hopefully there'll be a job for me. And who knows, when AI gets strong enough, they'll probably replace all the coders, and then I'll be looking for work all over again. Um, and I don't even know. They sort of tell you that there's tons of coding jobs out there, and I hope I'll be able to find one. But you know, I really wonder. I really wonder if anyone's going to pay me for it. Because, I mean, I can already tell that, anything I learn, I'm going to learn whatever I have to learn, absolutely have to learn, and I'm not going to want to go above and beyond that. And, um, and that's going to be the struggle, is that, I'm sure a lot of places are going to want you to go above and beyond. and you have to keep learning, and I have no interest in continually learning. But anyway, so yeah, this is just a video sort of like for those people who have found themselves in a situation where they pursued something that they wanted and found that their skills were lacking. It's tough. I'm gonna have to go the rest of my life, you know, under the gun to keep learning something that I don't like and spend the majority of time doing something I don't like. And I've managed to avoid that responsibility to this point at a great cost. And I guess that's the last thing I'll say. I'm almost coming up on an hour here, so I can't believe I've gone on this long. But the last thing I'll say is, there's a price for pursuing your dreams and failing. People act like, oh, pursue your dreams. They don't mention that if you fail to, achieve your dreams, that you will suffer. You know, the attempt to achieve your dreams and subsequent failure means you miss out on a lot. If I'd stuck with computers from a young age, um, it was a safe path. If you're on the safe path that isn't really the path that you have any passion for, well, they don't tell you there's rewards for sticking that out. I would have made a decent amount of money. I probably, wouldn't be living at home with my parents. I could be living anywhere I wanted right now because I'd have made, even if I never did anything but become a junior web developer and worked from there, by now I would have been making, over six figures, for probably multiple years since I had started, at age 21 or something like that. I mean, I could have been, I'm not saying I would have been wealthy, but I would have had retirement income, and I certainly would have had a much better shot with women, having made over six figures. Whereas I've had virtually no shot with women as a wannabe music teacher slash musician. That's not something that I mean, I could have done better with women on my own if I'd had any kind of game at all, which I don't. Um, but it's like I said, it would have been a lot easier if I'd been making six figures. There's no question. Um, and especially if I had my own place and it was a pretty nice place and I had a nicer car and all those BS materialist things. I wasn't interested in any of those things because I guess I had naive ideas about what women wanted in guys. I thought they didn't care if you were. I was always looking for a woman that didn't care how I did financially. I didn't realize that pretty much every woman cares to some extent. You don't have to be rich, but they don't want you to be poor. That's for sure. Most women don't want you to be poor. They're not willing. Most women are not willing to date a poor guy. Even if they're poor because they were sort of pursuing their dreams. That's why I'm poor, because I'm pursuing my dreams. But no woman cares about that. All they know is I'm poor. I can't help them pay the rent. I can't help them support a child. So I missed out on having children, which like I said, I don't think the world needs any more people anyway. But it's tough going without kids. It's tough going without um, with female companionship, and it's tough going without some level of independence. And the hardest thing of all for me is it's tough going with everyone in your life disrespecting you. And that's what happens when you live with your parents when you're older. People just sort of, they get angry at you. I have a lot of people who, just they're angry that I haven't put the work in that they have in life. They had to work to provide for themselves, and they're bitter that I'm trying to get out of that. you know. And the only reason why I'm trying to get out of that is because, I tried to do what I really wanted to do with my life and wanted to earn money doing that, and I couldn't do it. So, the way I see it, it's kind of like, well, why should I get started, working for the man, doing something I don't really want, any sooner than I have to. But again, I'm paying the price, and part of the price for, for trying to avoid that kind of responsibility from the man, trying to avoid that responsibility from society that doesn't care about whether you believe in what you're doing or not, is that people judge you. They're trained to judge you harshly for not bending over and taking it up the ass the way society wants you to. Society didn't want me to be a successful musician. If I'd had talent, then society would have accepted me being a successful musician. But society doesn't really appreciate artistry these days. Society appreciates the moolah, and if you're not making the moolah for somebody, then they will trash you. They will make you into human trash, and that's how people see me, especially in my family. Um, people love me in my family. Don't get me wrong. And I still love them, even though they have no respect for me. But they have zero respect for me. Um, I've done nothing to earn their respect in their minds. I feel like trying to follow your dreams should be somewhat respected, but it's not. If you're a musician, no one respects you for following your dreams anymore. They like to laugh at you and make fun of you, make you into a joke. And that's what's happened in my life. I've sort of been made into a joke, oh yeah, he's the guy who can't support himself and relies on his parents, and he's always going to be lonely. He's always going to be a failure. That's what people say. And they mostly say it because they're angry because I haven't had to struggle the way they've had to struggle. That's where it really comes from. And also because I don't respect them for going through that struggle. I don't respect people who've worked their asses off in life because to me it just seems like, if you've worked your ass off, you take pride in your work. Well, unless it's something that gives you personal satisfaction, you're just a chump for the man, is what it really comes down to. You just started working for the man sooner, and you had this idea of, personal responsibility, all this personal responsibility nonsense. I know a lot of people are gonna find this, annoying, like the people who show me no respect. But working your ass off for this society because you feel some, duty, you know, it doesn't achieve anything in the long run. You're just sort of perpetuating this kind of meaningless sort of. A lot of it has to do with the fact that my own personal worldview, which is that I think that society is on a crash course, as I've said many times. Um, you know, there's no long term plan here. It's just sort of use up every possible resource on the planet and as fast as we can, and destroy the climate for future generations. That's what it feels like. And so you have all these people that take tremendous pride in their contribution to using resources and driving us to extinction. That's how I see it. And you know, it's not to say that I'm doing a lot to resist that, other than trying not to work for the man. But I certainly don't want to be gung ho like, oh yeah, let me run out there. That's why I didn't want to stick with computers. Let me keep doing something I don't believe in, so that I can help destroy society. Um, because working with computers does not make the world a better place. It's not a part of the solution. It's another part of the problem. But when you take that take on things, when you see people as chumps for doing what they think is honorable work, I mean, I just that you're gonna be chastised for it. You're gonna be disrespected. They're gonna act like you're scum. You become scum, and I guess I can't blame them. Nobody wants to have their entire life's work be kind of invalidated by somebody who believes that they're just being chumps and doing work for a society that doesn't give a shit about them. But and a society that has no concern for the future and only cares about a very single-minded goal of creating profit and using up resources. Um, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel about most people. And I guess this is I'll just wrap this up. This is almost coming up in an hour, but the whole point of this is just so that you realize that there's always two sides to everything. So you can follow your dreams, and I have a lot of respect for you if you do. Believe me, um, I respect you more for following your dreams than for giving into the man and having the kind of the trappings of success that most people, um, that most of society agrees means, are representative of success. Nice cars, nice fashion, um, a beautiful woman, a beautiful wife, kids, and all the you know, usual crap. A big house. Um, Most people respect that. I don't. But when you're in that camp, when you fight for what you believe in and you fail, get ready because you'll be in for a world of pain. I know, in some ways I am. I'm not trying to say that life isn't worth living. I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to make the best and enjoy, the good things there are in this world, in my free time as much as I can. But it's also it is a bitter pill to swallow, spending the majority of your life doing something you don't believe in, and that's what I'm looking at right now, and it's pretty painful. And I know probably some of you are there with me. And sorry, guys, this is just how life has got to be. Oh well, we'll see. Maybe this coronavirus will end it all, and we won't have to worry about it anymore.